Is my voice is audible? Great. We are starting with the prayer.
भेद भाव अपने दिल से साफ कर सके, दोस्तों से भूल हो तो माफ कर सके, झूठ से बचे रहे, सच कदम भरे, खुद को जय करे, हमको मन की शक्ति देना, मुश्किलें पड़े तो हम पर हित न कर्म कर, साथ दे तो धर्म का, चले तो धर्म पर, खुद पे हौसला रहे, बदी से ना डरे, दूसरों की जय से पहले खुद को जय करे, हमको मन की शक्ति देना।
Good morning, all, and giving tribute to our great master Samuel Hanuman for giving us this divine science and taught us dare to be wise. Seeking blessings from our Guru, Dr. Prafull Vijayakar sirs, who bridges this science with the modern science and made homeopathy easy like mathematics. Jai Hanuman, Jai Homeopathy, Om Vijay Karaya Namah. So, friends, up till now we have read certain aphorism from the Organon of Medicine, 6th edition, and we are reading the book The End of My Assumptions of Miasm. So, in Organon, we have read up to 51 aphorism. In 51 aphorism, we have seen that how homeopathic medicines work wonders and what is the difference between homeopathy and allopathy. So, Master Hahnemann is telling that why homeopathy is most important than the allopathy in 52 aphorism. There are but two principal methods of cure. The one is based only on the accurate observations of the nature, on a careful experimentations and pure experience, the homeopathic. Before we never designly use, before we don't know. And the second, which does not do this, are called as the heteropathic or allopathic. So this is what the two different things is. Each opposes the other. See, at the time of Hanuman also, it opposes the other. The same thing happened right now also. And only he who does not know either can hold the delusion that they can ever approach each other or even become united, or to make himself so ridicule as to practice at one time homeopathically, at another time allopathically, according to the pleasure of the patient, the practice which may called as criminal treason against divine homeopathy. So our homeopathy is so divine that if you apply in a proper way, everything will be easy and it is a straight line. It is like a mathematics. But sometimes what happens due to the lack of a knowledge or the having a delusions of persons or a doctors, that one times they feel that homeopathy is better and one time they feel that allopathy is better. So they prescribe on the pleasure of the patients and they practice. This is called as a mongrel sect, what Master Hahnemann has said. In aphorism number 53, the true mild cures take place only according to the homeopathic method, which we have found from the aphorism number 7 to 25 by experience and deductions, is unquestionably the proper one by which, through art, the quickest, most certain, and most permanent cure are obtained, since this healing art rests upon the eternal, infallible law of nature. So, by most of experience and deductions from this experience is telling us that the homeopathic cure can be very quickest, certain. Certain means everything is precise and fixed, and the most permanent because it is based on the law which is infallible. The pure homeopathic healing art is the only correct method, the one possible to the human art. Again, it is a method and it is also possible for the human art also. It is not the what sir always says that it is not my monopoly. Homeopathy can be used in a mathematical way. So you same way you can also apply this. So it is possible to human. Okay. The straightest way to cure the line, straight line between the one to one. So the straightest way to cure as certain as there is but one straight line between the two given points. So this is what very precise and mathematics. It was given in aphorism number 53. So this is what we have to understand. Now to understand this, everything is precise and certain. So we have to understand the man as a whole, and that's why we are in the journey of uh, reading this book. So this will help us to understand that how man is representing as a defense mechanism in forms of Sora, psychosis, and syphilis. So as we all are reading the book, The End of My Assumptions of Miasm by Dr. Prafull Vijayakar. Up till now, we have learned the process called as the defense mechanism. Miasm as a defense mechanism, then miasm is understood at the level of the physical plane. For example, at the cellular plane, that the cell is functioning properly in a physiological way and defending in a physiological way, that is a sura. Second is when the cell is functioning in a constructive way, that is called as a psychosis, and the cell is functioning in a destructive way, that is called as a syphilis. So these are what the presentations of the Sora, psychosis, and syphilis. Then also we have read the chapter on the physical disease of the Sora, psychosis, and syphilis. In Sora, it is all are inflammatory changes, itis. In psychosis, there must be excess or less in the form of accumulations, deposition, synthesis, and the proliferations. And in a syphilis, there must be a two process at pathological level called the necrotic and apoptosis or apolysis. So this is what we have read at the physical plane. Then we enter into the mind of the cells because our body and mind both are governed by the genetic code, and the genetic code is representing us. So that is why our mind. So in a soric stage, we have learned that the our system is sensitized, and we learn from our sensitivity and the senses. So this sensitivity is the most important aspect of the sura. Then the desire to learn, the consciousness and conscientiousness is the most important aspect of the sura. Again, there is a process called as, is anyone ask any questions? So this process of understanding that uh, the man from the physical plane as well as from the mental plane. So in Sura we have learned that the sensitivity, then the sensitivity goes into the apprehensions, anxiety, and inhibitions at the level of psyche, and the most of the anxious process is going on. So this is what the Sura is. Now we are entering into the biggest chapter of this book, and that is the psychotic mentals. Nowadays, we came across lot of patients is all are in the psychosis because this era is of a psychosis, and we came across a patient in the same manner. So, what is psychotic mental? As we have seen in the physical plane, the psychosis is represented in the form of a four processes: accumulations, deposition, synthesis, and the proliferations. And in that also, there is a two variant, that is the excess variant and the less variant. So this is what our understanding at the physical plane, how it went into mental plane. So, to assess the mental picture of psychosis, it is worthwhile recollecting the physical aspect of psychosis as I have mentioned right now. We deduced earlier that the some organism that fails to stop the irritating hostile factor by the physiological defense adopt a more solid approach, and that is of the fortifications or the construction. Unless and until the Sura is failed, then and then the patient went into psychosis. So in Sura also we have seen that the basic requirement of the Sura at the physical plane is the respirations, oxygenations, and everything. That is called the need. If the need is compromised and it is not fulfilled, then the person has to adopt to certain extent, and that adaptations is in the form of either a fortifications or the constructions to survive a longer, and that is what the psychosis is. Let us for a time being assume a state of the cell or a thought process in the cell as if it were a human being. So as we all understood that the we have to understand man as a whole. So to understand the man, we have to understand his system, to have to understand his organ, we have to understand his tissue, and we have to understand the cell. So assume that the cell is the human being. So how cell is representing to us? So the primary response or the physiological defense response of the cell is expressed as the sensitivity, irritability, pain, and inflammation at the physical plane. And the same thing that the sensitivity, irritability, anxiety, anger, and inhibitions, insecurity because of inhibition, etc., on the mental plane. As the hostile stimulus continues, you know, the cell could start feeling insecure more and the senses of frailness could set in. So this is what very important aspect of understanding. Understand the cell. If hostile stimulus is going on again and again and again, and someone is irritating you again and again, then what happens? You feel that you are more sensitized to that, and then you are started making something covering yourself. Why you are covering? Because you feel that is the our body is our cell is frail, our mind is frail. So this is what the starting point is. The start feeling insecure and the sense of frailness could set in. Now there is an impending fear of being finished or destroyed. See, our survival of the cell is to survive the longer and survive the longer that then and then they have to reproduce. So here the feeling of destroyed is coming on. So this is what the insecurity is happening at the level of psyche. An impending fear of death accompanies this frail cell, weakened by the sustained hostility. Unable to overcome the enemy in man-to-man combat, try to adopt guerrilla tactics. So those whose genes have cowardice trait try to adapt the constructive defense. So this is what very important understanding that those who have a cowardice genes, they try to adapt the constructive defense. And those genes who having a revolting trait, they try to adapt the destructive defense. This is what very important understanding of the process. The cell would like to deceive the invaders by making a facade. So this is what very important. It tried to cover up its weakness by the fortification, by facade. It builds a wall behind which it can hide. The wall need accumulations of the certain things and the multiplications of the certain things. So once this wall is ready outside the cell, a false facade has been created and the enemy need to penetrate this false facade wall if it has to attack the interior of the cell. In order to put off In order to put off invaders, the cell's mind uses all the goolies and the tricks. So this is what the intelligence has been required in the psychosis. It may put up a show to make itself foppish or to hide and the project what it is not. Very important. In psychosis, always remember one thing, what they are showing is it is not that. So this is what something, what it is not. This false projections of the exterior not reflecting the interior is the part of the shrewd, sly, maneuvering tactic for the self-defense. So for defending self, they have to become a sly, they have to become a shrewd, and they have to manipulate the things by using a certain tactics. Painlessness of the complaint, which are otherwise painful, is a classical example of a such tactic. The whole mentality is based on a selfish motives and gratifications of the urges. All this it does shamelessly. Thus, cowardice, fragility, fear, hiding, cover up. See, remember this word. These are the basic words for the psychosis, and you have to understand this in a detail. Okay. Thus, the genetically, the cowardice, the fragility, the fear, the hiding, the cover up, the projections, the facade, the thick skin as a reaction, the hoardings, the accumulations of the money, accumulations of the property, accumulations of the treasure, showmanship, cunningness, slyness, shrewdness, maneuvering, political shamelessness, selfishness, self-centeredness, etc. are some of the rubrics which can describe the psychosis mentality. The first phase of psychosis, which we have learned in the physical plane, is a psychosis excess. So, in that psychosis excess, multiplications is happening, and in psychosis less, the less multiplications is happening. So, this is what you have to understand at the mental plane also. Again, you have to understand what I have, sir has written here. That is painlessness of the process. That means what? The painlessness of the complaint, which are otherwise painful, is a classic example of the tactic. That means I am something as strong to show that, but internally they are a weak. So, for example, the painlessness at the level of mind, that means what? The person who is emotionally sensitive to certain things, but due to their fear and insecurity, they started projecting that I am not affected by the situation, and they don't show any hurt and the grief and everything. So this is something called a classical example. This is a hiding. But again, when it goes to the higher center and the destructions of the nerve center, this is called as a self-deception, and it may lead to autoimmunity and the syphilis. This is what we have to. I am giving you this answer. That's why I am pointing out on this, because when the penlessness comes out of the destructions of the senses and destructions of the nerves, this lead to the syphilis. So this is what it started from deceiving, and after that deceiving others, it started deceiving the self, and then finally end up into destruction. So this is what we have to understand the psychosis, and the syphilis is a very
Actually,
thin line in between.
9898035136.
So, the basic component of this psychosis is this: the cowardice, the fragility, the fear, the hiding, the coverness, the self centeredness, the selfishness, the shamelessness, uh, maneuvering, slyness, deceitfulness, shrewdness. So, when you combine all of these things, that means it is called as the law of CEO, cheat everyone, even everyone, matlab in which the persons also came into it. So cheat everyone. The law of psychosis is CEO, cheat everyone. The first phase of psychosis is the psychosis excess. This phase of psychosis gives rise to overgrowing, overfunctioning, etc. at the physical plane. It causes overexpressions and overprojections. This, when applied to our expressions, will, intellect, moral, and emotion, etc., will give us the psychosis excess state. Now, we have understood in the previous sessions that whenever we are understanding the genetic constitutional simillimum, to understand the genetic constitutional simillimum, we have to understand the man from the genes at the mental plane. So, in mental plane, there is a process called as the extroversions or the introversion. This is called as the expressive genes or non-expressive genes. There is a will to live, so will of the genes, then the intelligence of the genes, then the reactions is the emotions, and the way of the sense of a right and wrong in the form of the morals. So this gives rise to a process. So we have to see everything in this manner so that we can understand man as a psychosis excess or man as a psychosis less. So whenever the expressions is overexpressed, so here the psychosis excess is over. So when the over-expressive personality is there, this quality makes the persons very loquacious, expansive, communicative. These peoples are extroverted and go on talking and talking. So psychosis excess is in the form of extroverted, loquacity, communicative, expansive, talking and talking. The answers in questions never in one word nor in one sentence. Sorry. They are good patients for homeopathic history. When asked what is wrong with you, what is your chief complaint, they will start their narrations right from their childhood. A man who just wanted to give a news that his wife aborted, was started his narrations right from the time he came home from the work in the evening, after which he took his wife for a long walk where they uh, bottled some delicious ice cream, and how they took a detour from the market to the park and around the park in his place of residence, and then see how his wife complained about the spasmodic pain in the abdomen, and then how she was taken to the hospital and she aborted. So this is what the expansions of the things the person has to see, tell that it is happening, but person is telling you the whole story by telling everything. This is called as the communicative expansive. So in the contrast, the psychosis which is under expressive or less expressive, and they would just finish the whole thing as doctor, there is a bad news, my wife is aborted. So this is what under expressions of the process. So some loquacious people while narrating one topic may loses their thread and go on to another topic. Some of the patients who try to impress upon the importance of their complaint end up exaggerating. People who talk vivaciously with a flowery language, who are very eloquent, who are a flatterer, and who talk about the money, making money, and about the luxuries and amusement rather than the daily needs and necessity, tend to have a psychosis. This is very important aspect of understanding. So whenever the patient comes to you and they are telling you everything like this, very eloquently, flowery language, flattering you. See, many patient comes to you and flatter the doctor. Yeah, doctor, I love you. You are treating very wonderfully, and you are giving a wonderful medicine to all of them. Thank you so much. And this is what they are flattering the doctors. So this is what you have to understand. The person is in a trait of psychosis. Here, one point is there that some of the loquacious people, while narrating one topic, and may lose their thread and go to another topic. Here, the psychosis may goes into a process called as syphilis also, because when there is a control has been lost, something has been lost, the thread has been lost, that means it is a narrow line between psychosis to syphilis. So this is what the combinations of the loquacity, jumping from one subject to another, losing the thread from one to another, is a psychosyphilitic in nature. Again, one thing is there, the patient who try to impress with the importance of their complaint end up exaggeration. So whenever the person is giving you idea and they are exaggerating everything, that means the thread is again losing to the one point, that is what the tip of one point, and that is also a entry point into syphilis. So here you have to keep watch that the psychotic people will always give you some syphilitic trait and some syphilitic history in your case, but you have to be so much so vigilant that you have to pick up that things in a very easy manner. Okay. So this is what the expressions of the psychotic people. They are very extroverted. They are very vivacious. They are having a flowery language. They are eloquent in nature. They are a flatterer. They always talk about their self. They always talk about the money. They always talk about the amusement. They always talk about the luxuries and everything. They always talk about the branded thing. These are the psychosis expressions. Now we have to understand the wheel of the psychosis. So, through the psychosis, it is based on the cowardice, though the psychosis itself is based on the cowardice and the fear of death, and the ideal psychotic excess personality shall project himself as a dictator. So, you have to understand that the base of these cells is so much so fragile and so much so cowardice, but to project everything in the form of a hardness, in the form of projections, and that shows that I am something, I have a power, and that is what a dictatorship is. So this is what they dictate to you. The dictators, they shows their dominance over you. The dominance is more pronounced where there is a least resistance or opposition. So you have to understand that dominance is more pronounced when there is a least resistance and opposition. So many a time we have came across the certain patients. So that patient is like that. Whenever the assistant doctor is taking a case and patient is telling you that I have these things, and in a egoic self, they express themselves to assistant doctor, and suddenly the patient came to the consultant physicians or consultant homeopath, and then the demeanor, whole the attitudes, everything has been changed. So the dominance is more pronounced where the least resistance and oppositions is there. But if there is a resistance and opposition, that they again goes into a shell. So that is what the rubric we have found. Sir always prescribe on the basis of this, that hard on inferior and soft with superior. And this is the best ideal quality of psychosis access. There are 5-7 remedy in this rubric. So you have to think like that. So whenever the patient comes to you with this process, this is what you have to understand. This is the psychosis. So in front of assistant, they are so much so dominating. Whenever they come to the main physicians or consultant, they become so much so timid and coward. So this is what something you have to understand. This is the psychosis. This individual can rule in a home or dominate in the office only on subordinates. So these are the very important. But they are meek in front of the boss. Children who are defiant and obstinate and throw tantrums in front of the mother and the grandparents, but become very timid when the father returns home or when they go to the school or a neighbor's house. This belongs to this group. So this is what you have to understand, that very important. So two phases personality. This is psychosis. Psychosis has the mask. Psychosis has the covering. So there are always a two phases personality. So in front of the parents and grandparents, they become defiant and obstinate, whereas in front of the father and teachers, they become timid. So this could be the lycopodium personality, psychosis. For them, mother and grandparents are, or a maid is someone who is taken for the granted. The child knows these people with whom he spend most of the time and very harmless. These are the people who give him love and never mean him harm. He was nothing to fear from them and therefore can dictate term with them. The father who is not present throughout the day is taken as an outsider. He may be harmful to the child, as would be a boss in the office or a teacher in the school. Such people could be potentially harmful at the level of psyche. In front of them, the child who is devil at home could become a meek, timid entity. Such may be the psychotic variations of the lyco, lachesis, veratrum, and platina. These are the remedy from the soft peer superior and hand with inferior. The rubric is contemptuous to the subordinate and mild to the superior. So this is what you have to take into considerations. Another psychosis access personality is are the achiever in nature. So his desire are more than his need. Always the psychosis comes when there is a lack. Psychosis comes, there is a insecurity. Psychosis comes, there is a fear. So they want everything to do fortify. So for fortification, their need has to be increased, and that need goes into greed. So desire, the need which is more than his need. So this is a greed. So the psychosis excess personality is an achiever. They can achieve everything because their desire are more than his need. And the remedy which given in the rubric is arsenic, arsulflavum, baratasol, bryonia, and zincum first. These are the remedy having a desire more than his need. So what was the desire they have in this is the desire for the money, desire for the success, desire for the names and fames, desire for everything which shows them a big. So there may be a avarice, there may be a greed, there may be a gluttony, and he pursues this desire with the obstinacy and the positivity. So to get everything, everyone become obstinate and everyone become positive towards this. So this is something called as the achiever, obstinacy, and positivity is the face of psychosis excess. Sorry. For achievement, For achievement, he may use any means, so that the moral has been used. Behind this achieving tendency is the greed or a selfish interest. At the very base of it is the cowardice and the fear of death. The second functions of reproduction in the cell was perhaps necessarily developed due to insecure feeling in the cell. So same way insecure feeling in the mind. What will happen to my achievement, my acquisitions, and both the physical and mental? When I die, I have to store it in the genes, accumulates and pass on to someone. That means the generations. The that same one should be very close to me, very similar to me. I do not want my things to go out of my clone or ditto, so that even when I am not there, mine will remain mine. So this is what the face of psychotic people having. So the progeny productions was supposed to be the maneuver to deceive destiny. So this is what they started giving the things that the maneuver to deceive destiny or the death. So that is the process called the starting point of the psychosis to deceive everyone. That even death should not make me part with my invaluable. The selfish motive, self-interest, and self-centeredness, fear of loss, and the deception perhaps drove the cell to evolve into mitosis to create a ditto. So this is what the process called cellular level. Selfish motive, self-interest, self-centeredness, and fear of loss with the process called a deception may lead to the mitosis and create a ditto like the same. But there were other forces acting on the world which prevented 100% and ditto or a clone. Even a humanly architecture scientifically perfect method cannot produce a clone which can be 100% identical. So this is what we have made, but it is not same identical. The obvious reason for this is that the identity does not only depend upon genes. There is also an environmental factor which is called as the epigenetic factor. So at the time when the cell is generating, the genetic factor has a certain tendency, but at the same time, the epigenetic factor also working on them. So the same ditto will not be made, but something is changed when the environmental factor is acting on. These genes themselves are constantly under the influence of other energy which is surrounding the entity. This energy which influences the new entity ranging from the cosmic force and the magnetic force of the huge planet and the sun in our solar system. This may differ according to their positions in the sky, latitude and longitude at which the two were born at a different time, may have a different kinetic force influencing it. The people around have their own vibrations, all of which may influence the biological mechanism within differently and hence cause the variations. This may cause the new product to achieve a different defense mechanism not identical with the original one. We have seen the dolly. The dolly is a clone animals. The dolly, the first clone animal, developed arthritis, which the original did not have. She perhaps developed the psychotic defense disease, while the original perhaps was doing the SORA. So defense at the genetic level make all the difference. The clone with the psychotic defense will now show variations from the original, both in terms of the look and behavior. It may now develop a larger bony structures and behave entirely different than the original in the face of some difficulties or the hostile stimulus. In short, in short, which lives has to defend to live. So this is what the Sora is for the survival. That means I have to live with the nutrition and everything and my daily core. But when this Sora is fulfilled or Sora is compromises, goes into defending of the psychosis. So in the psychosis, they started more and more to live. So here the love for the life is the Sora. The more love for the life because of the fear of the death is a psychosis, and no love for the life is the syphilis. So in short, being any being which lives has to defend to live, and anything which defend cannot be identical. Even identical twins react differently in the same situation. This is what the example of the same genetic materials has given to two child. Both are identical twins, but their defense mechanism is different, even though they are looking same as a ditto. The defense is miasm, which are modes of the defense, prevent identical existence, and hence it is the base of what Hahnemann called as individualizations. So this is what you have to understand the individual, even though they are ditto. But to look into this, what we have to take into considerations is when there is the process who having a dictatorship, who having a dominancy, who having achiever, who having a avarice, who having a greed, gluttony, who having a obstinacy and positivity with the feeling of insecurity at the base, and they started deceiving the destiny due to the selfish motive or self-interest or self-centeredness due to the fear of loss. These are the phase of psychosis excess. Now the intellect. So it is what a wheel, we have seen the wheel. So in a wheel, they become so much so strong and obstinate and positive. But why these people become positive? Because of certain drawback in their life, and that is what their originality is. So whenever the person comes to you with the personality development, so this personality development personality is a psychotic personality. The persons comes from the corporate world and they behave and in a different corporate attitudes and manner. These all are the psychotic in nature. So you have to understand what was the childhood, what you are in a childhood. So that guide you that I am like this in a childhood. I am so much so fearful in childhood, but I have now no fear because this is what psychosis projections. Intellect, the profuseness of the thought process lead one to become an intelligent entity. The awareness for a knowledge stems, see, desire for knowledge is a sora, that is a conscience. But when this desire goes higher and higher in the form of a greed that lead to the awareness of the knowledge stem from the desire to achieve more and become greatest or a unique or unparalleled. All these, the fertility of the brain in a psychosis excess make an individual an intellectual. So most of psychotic excess people are the intellectual. The brain is full of fantastic ideas, immense possibilities, and the probability is mostly constructive, or at a time also very destructive also. So this is what you have to find lines. Why destructive? Because the motive is something bad. That is why destructive to others, not for the self. To maneuver and escape and rationalize or to devise an excuse become a child play. The fertile brain can think of a new design, new theories, and can create a new things leading to discoveries and inventions. So all the discoveries and inventions is based on science. Psychosis. Either side of the brain, the left side standing for the logic and analysis, and the right brain, which help in the purpose of creativity and imagination, both are functionally well enhanced and well balanced in making of a scientist or a discoverer or even a poet. So we can see that the scientist, we can see that the poet. So these all are the quality they have at the level of mind, they have a level of intellect. It are the quality of psychosis excess. The creative and imaginative brain can give birth to the poem, verses, and even story, and make a good poet and famous authors. So this is the psychotic process. The quickness of the perceptions, analysis, and applications of one theory to another, and a practical observation lead to the theorizing in such a brain is also a psychosis excess. Most of the scientists and the great discovery of the discovery perhaps to such as a psychotic intellect. So psychotic intellect is the form of the high intelligence to manipulate others also, to rationalize also, and there is a constructive process called the creativity and imaginative So this will help you to understand that how psychotic intellect, and there is a quickness of the perception, the analysis of the theory and applications of the theory to these are the practical observations of the psychosis access. There is a bad side of this same quality too, when the person's having a sly element or a deceitful element and added to the intellect, which makes the perfect pirates. So you have the pirated books, the stories, the songs, the films, and even the theory are offered to the world is a camouflage as original. So coping clandestinely, taking three to four theories and combining and dishing out a brand new one is the surreptitious act of the psychosis access intellect. So this is what you have to understand. So this is what anything which is pirated, camouflage. These are the psychosis in nature. Copying is a psychosis in nature. Such intellect, such intellect gives rise to the modern day politicians or even the much maligned gurus in the saffron or a white garbs, misleading the masses by their manipulative intellect and eloquence. Here too, they do not practice what they preach, which is also true in the homeopathic world also. So this is what you have to keep in your mind, how the intelligent persons can deceive you. So this is what you have to understand the psychosis intelligence. The intelligence can be used for the purpose of a good purpose cause, and there is also a bad cause. So that is what both are in a psychosis. Now the morals. The petty thieves, robbers, and a gangster, respectively, are stepped in the ladder like a progression of the psychosis immoral. So that is what you have to understand. The psychosis is immoral. So whenever you need something, it is a sora. Whenever the need become a greed, so when there is a greed, you have to get everything by hooks or crooks. So when there is a hooks or crooks, that means you have to manipulate, you have to deceit, or you have to sly in a such a way and that you get something. So this is called the process called as the psychology having a thieves, a psychology of the robbers or a gangster, that is a immoral act. So this primary step of achieving primary need in illegal, surreptitious and the way start from the insufficient nutrition. So whenever you didn't have, you start having this. So this is what you have to understand. So for example, the person having the fear of poverty, so for example, the in a childhood, the financial crisis is there in everything, and the this child become adult or adolescents and start earning money with his work, and then he started that I have to earn more money, more money, more money, and they started going into the state of gambling and everything by deceiving or making the schemes and everything. So this is called as a psychosis. For the individuals whose daily needs of the bread and butter for himself and his family are not met with, hunger looms large in front of him. Insufficient daily necessities of the life, despite working hard for it, propel him to acquire it in a clandestine way. It is a mad, mad world. There is a race for the survival, especially in overpopulated countries like India, where demands are more and supply is less. One start stealing to survive. So this is what stealing to survive. This is psychosis. A fear constantly lurks inside behind his mind, and that he is doing something wrong. He may be caught, he may be punished. Once he succeeds in acquiring money in this manner, the sorry consciousness start giving away to the psychotic. slyness, and non-conscientious. So conscientious remedy become non-conscientious in psychosis. So this is what you have to understand. Previously, they started working very hard and diligently and for the getting knowledge and everything. But when this is not getting in a proper way, they started deceiving. But after deceiving, they have some fear, and that fear that I might get punished, I might get caught and everything. But if they achieve that I have not been punished or I have not been caught, so they started making this in a different way by using intellect and manipulating, and that is what the conscientiousness goes into slyness and non-conscientiousness. So this is very important, the fine line between this. At this stage, the mixtures of emotions prevails. The soric anxiety and psychotic fear of being caught and beaten up are both trying to overpower each other. Once the success after success is achieved, then the soric anxiety disappears. Now to hell with the conscience. So the conscience has been gone in psychosis. This is very important. The person become thick-skinned, a slang but apt phrase used to describe psychosis by the layman inadvertently. A slang, the word is a slang, a thick skin, जाड़ी चमड़ी वाला हो गया. So verbatim, he become a thick due to accumulations psychosis. Though fear lurks from within, a thick wall of rationalizations is built. He goes on acquiring the needs which within short time turn to greed. So this is what very of the need goes into greed. Very important. The easy money later is used to carry on the same business of flicking pocket by using smaller thieves hired by him. So these are the things. He become the boss of the gang, protected by the guard sitting in the safety of home. Inside the coward. You have seen the Singham movie. In the Singham movie, the one is the goon, the main gangster, and he is covered by the whole persons. But when he was alone, he becomes so much so coward. So this is what you have to understand, that the psychosis is facade. They have created the facade and fortifications of everything. He became a boss of the gang, protected by the guard sitting in the safety of the home because he was coward, not risking his dear life and getting his work done from the others. These organizations may acquire larger dimensions, sometimes even to the international levels. The petty thieves, who once started as a pauper, become a persons with a high ambitions, acquire a high standard of living, and become a most exclusive and too elusive. So this is what the quality is. High ambitions is the psychotic quality. The exclusive is the psychotic quality. So you have to understand that how it happens. He operated internationally with the big nuxes of the people and gangsters ready to work for him, die for him, and kill for him, all at a price which he is more than willing to pay. So he is the brain behind. So here the brain is most important. The brain is working behind. The intellect is good. Very often he manipulates and maneuvers his way to become respectable, so they become a respectable, charitable, magnanimous, philanthropist, VIP, industrials, and even a minister. These all are the psychosis. All credit goes to his psychotic brain using the intellect and the morals. So in the face of looking a good moral, but behind that the moral is deceiving. So this is what the corrupt venal, the moral affection want of. These are the psychosis in the nature. The defense or the miasm of psychosis, which is based on the aberrations, the departure from what is true, right, or the correct of a functions of the reproduction, tend to have a sexual hue. So again, this is very important aspect of this. Sex is one of the method of reproductions and which is dominant trait in the man. Thus, the psychosis, whether excess or less, are likely to revolve around this. The excess of sexual desire and the huge urge for the gratifications of the sexual urge makes them a fertile psychotic mind manipulate and circumstances to achieve what they want. The boss enjoying clandestine affairs with his secretaries or the multitudes of them, and then, when threatened with the obvious consequences, getting cold feet due to coward natures in an ideal example of the psychosis moral. Fear of being caught or exposed or losing his social position is the uppermost in his mind. Flirting with the ladies, ideas, jobs, and even dangers make may make him appear a capricious and even a frivolous. So these are the qualities of a psychosis. The mind is full of lust, leading to the lasciviousness in acts and the speech. This is psychosis. Such constitutions are very often suffer from the bad effect of masturbations and debaucheries. So these are the psychosis physicals and psychosis morals. So this is what we have understood up to this, that is the psychosis. So from tomorrow we are starting with the how a young child goes into precipitations of the psychosis and how the young child develop psychosis from the parents. Okay. So we have concluded up to this for the today's sessions, because psychosis is the biggest chapter in the this book of a miasm, and it is very easy as well as it is very difficult to learn. So I request all of you to reread again and again the psychosis, because 60 to 70% patient comes to you with this miasm in this era. So you have to keep your eye and vigil to that, and then pick up some syphilis from the psychosis, so that you have to understand the man as a whole. So hope you have a good idea of a half part of psychosis in this. Still we are learning that. We will continue these sessions on the Monday. Tomorrow is a holiday for all of us. So we'll continue from the psychosis precipitated in the young children by the parents from here. So thank you so much for today's sessions. And if you have any query or questions, we will have a 4 5 minutes to deal with. Loquacity and communicative expansive. So loquacity is the act of talking, and communicative expansive means you have to understand the preface of the person is telling you something in terms of that they have to tell you. The example was given by the sir that my wife is aborted due to this reason. But when he is want to telling you something and he is stretching this the story in the form of the story, it is called as communicative expansive. Loquacity means the act of talking, continuous talking, 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 talking. So this is what the 2 point understanding in the form. So loquacity is a general rubric, and communicative expansive is a little particular rubric of the extroverted kind of personality. In a communicate expansive, there are only 9, 10, or 12 remedies are there. In loquacity, you may find many remedies. Loquacious is the rubric, and there is one rubric is delirium loquacious. When the person is not understanding the gravity of situation, goes into a delirious condition, that is a higher, that is a syphilitic in nature, psychosyphilitic in nature. Sir, psychosis can be in a good moral, hardworking, and a winner by a little manner or not by a cheating. Generally psychosis can be have a good and a bad aspect, both are there. Okay, but in that you have to understand the conscience. Most of time the sorry conscience is also a hard worker. So that is what you have to. And most of time when the person goes into autoimmunity, then also they are very honest by nature and affecting them. But in psychosis there is always a cheating, cheating, and cheating. So this is what the things is. The moral is high, but you have to understand why this moral is high. Behind that there is something, it has to be someone has good moral, because they have a feeling of fear that if I do wrong thing to people or the persons, then God will punish me, or something has happened to me as my karma. Again, there is a psychosis. So, good moral can be a facade for psychosis. In Sir's book, it was given as a list of consensus and non-consensus remedy. We'll share in the group so you will get it. Okay, or I think I advise all of you to read Sir's book diligently so you will get every answer of your questions. Okay, so thank you so much. Hope you all enjoy learning. We will continue the session from the Monday onwards. Thank you all. Have a good day and good weekend. Thank you. Thank you so much.